Hey, folks, welcome to another episode of Cutter One. I'm your host, JJSJ, your resident troublemaker and your resident culture warrior. I hope you're all doing well on this Thursday as we inch ever closer to the weekend. It's just staring at us right in the face, coming right at us like a pyroclastic bukkake for Galadriel. Anyway, I don't know. I don't know. I just made it up. I hope you're all doing great. So let's get right into this article. Gonna jump right into it. And this is coming to us from the good old folks at CBR.com. And this is from our good friend Ben Hardwick. We've dealt with Ben before. Let's see what Ben has to tell us. The Rings of Power could end with Middle Earth's most catastrophic event. Okay. With Sauron's dramatic return to Middle Earth, the Lord of the Rings of Pewter, might end with the world's most cataclysmic event. I wonder of what he's referencing. With the reveal of Mordor and Mount Doom, Sauron made quite a spectacle of his return on the Lord of the Rings of Pewter. But it's rather appropriate, as Middle-earth will soon succumb to hundreds of years of war and destruction at the hands of the Dark Lord. And if the show sticks to Tolkien's lore, like, why would it start? It may very well end with Sauron causing Middle-earth's most cataclysmic and world-changing event. Okay, this is going to get good, I can tell. Of course, the natural ending of the show feels like it'll be Sauron's defeat on the slopes of Mount Doom, where Isildur cuts his hand and claims the One Ring as his own. But as this has already been seen in the opening of Peter Jackson's The Lord of the Rings trilogy, it could be a somewhat underwhelming conclusion to such an epic tale. And so, ending things on the reshaping of Middle-earth could serve as the perfect wrap-up for the Rings of Power. Okay, I'm going to stop right there and say, Ben, you are wrong. You are absolutely 100% wrong. And I'll tell you why. They're not going to end the show there. Now, that may be in the final season, although I doubt it. And you're probably looking at maybe towards the end of season 4, right? And the reason why is because it's the Rings of Power, right? You have to see Sauron create the One Ring. If they end it with the fall of Numenor, as Ben is suggesting, Sauron hasn't created the One Ring yet. Now, obviously, they've already strayed from Tolkien lore, so there's nothing to indicate that they're suddenly going to get back on track, right, and try and stick to the lore. But just saying, from a timeline point of view, using Ben's logic here, they won't end it. They may end season 4 with the fall of Numenor, but they won't end the entire show with the fall of Numenor. That will come either with Sauron creating the One Ring, or it will end when Isildur cuts it from his hand. The Battle of the Last Alliance. I'm inclined to think the Battle of the Last Alliance, and the reason why, because why would you compress Isildur's story into the Rings of Pewter if not to tell his story of how he eventually becomes the one to cut the ring from Sauron's hand, right? Otherwise, you don't need to tell his story. Why put that in there as a plot point, right? And that's the whole reason why they condensed all these things, because they wanted to tell all these different stories, but they were so far apart in terms of the way Tolkien wrote them, like literally some hundreds, if not thousands of years apart. They had to all condense them in together, right? And that's what they kept telling us. So, it would be stupid to put Elendil and Isildur in there and then not have Elendil and Isildur do ultimately what Elendil and Isildur do, which is to meet Sauron on the steps of, Mount Doom, and eventually Isildur cuts the ring from his hand. So I don't think that they're going to end the entire show in Numenor, as Ben is suggesting. I think that might be where they end season 4, but we'll find out. Let's see. Anyway. Okay. Of course, the natural ending of the show feels like it'll be Sauron's defeat on the slopes of Mount Doom, where Isildur cuts his hand and claims the One Ring as his own. But as this has already been seen in the opening of Peter Jackson's The Lord of the Rings trilogy, it could be somewhat underwhelming conclusion to such an epic tale. Rings of Pewter is not epic by any stretch of the means of the word. And so, ending things on the reshaping of Middle-earth could serve as the perfect wrap-up for the Rings of Pewter. Again, you're wrong. Sauron deceived the race of men. Okay. As for how Sauron's return leads to a great cataclysm, it all starts with the Númenóreans, a strong race of men hailing from the island of Númenor. They were a proud people who saw themselves as superior to most, with King Ar-Pharazôn believing he should be king over the entirety of Middle-earth. So when Sauron returned and was acting as if he should be in charge, the Númenóreans took it as a personal insult and marched across the land directly into Mordor. Sauron was well aware that his current strength could not challenge the forces of Númenor, yet he still managed to turn the situation in his favor. He presented himself in an elegant form and pretended to surrender, which led the men to bring him back to their island as a prisoner. And here Sauron began to corrupt the men from within, rising to become the king's most trusted advisor through flattery and deception. That is a hell of a way to summarize the Númenóreans and exactly what happened in regards to them and Sauron and stuff like that. I mean, that's like saying, well, it's, somebody says, well, what was the weather like this winter? And you go, well, okay. Right? I mean, technically, that's a correct description, right? Although it's missing a lot of detail, right? So Ben sort of gives us the cliff notes here for that whole thing. Anyway, Sauron angered Middle-earth's gods. Oh, Sauron angered them. Okay, just checking. One by one, the people of Númenor began worshipping Sauron, believing the Dark Lord could provide them with the same immortality as elves. Oh. That's not correct. Things continued to escalate until Sauron convinced the king to sail to the elven land, the elven land of Valinor, and take control for himself. And it was at this point the gods began to intervene, as Valinor was one of their most sacred and important creations. Oh, I see. Yeah, because the Valar created Valinor for the elves and then left, but then Sauron convinced the men to take it from the elves, and it was only then that the Valar got involved. I'm glad Ben was here to make that oh so clear to us. Y'all know that was sarcasm, right? Okay. Usually, the gods refrained from intervening in world events, especially the all-powerful god of creation, Eru. But this time, Sauron had gone too far, and Eru thought it was necessary to act. He reshaped the entire world from a flat plane into a sphere, causing the sea levels to rise and the island of Númenor to be completely flooded. Oh, okay, it was just flooded. My bad. Okay. I thought it was wiped from the map, but whatever, it was just flooded. All across the world, men drowned or were crushed under shifting mountains, and Sauron's body was destroyed once more. Oh, okay, I didn't know it was all the men from, Rohan. Well, I know it wasn't Rohan yet, but, apparently it was men everywhere that had to pay the price for the Númenóreans. Who knew? In the end, it can be assumed the death toll reached the millions, and the geography of Middle-earth was forever changed. It's easily one of the biggest turning points in the Lord of the Rings franchise and feels too important for the Rings of Power to ignore. It'll be interesting to see how the show manages to depict such large-scale event. Okay, and that was by Ben Hardwick. Yeah, what is it? What is it that that I'm looking for? Oh wait. Yeah, that about sums it up. Again, like I said, they're going to touch on the destruction of Númenor. And they've already alluded to it in season 1. Both Miriel, Tar Miriel, Goofy Miriel, and Guy Ladriel both touch the Palantir, which apparently allows you to see the future, and they both see Númenor being, overtaken by tsunamis, right? So they're gonna touch on it, like that's a given. But again, I don't think that Ben is correct in his assessment of that's where they'll end the show. I don't think they're gonna end the show there. And well, see, because here's the thing: they theoretically can't end the show there without screwing the pooch big time. Regardless, if you end the show with the fall of Numenor and the destruction of Numenor, right? Any Tolkien fan knows that at the same time, Sauron in his physical form also gets destroyed because he happens to be in Numenor when this happens, right? So what does that mean for the One Ring then, right? So you either have Sauron creating the One Ring, long before any of this happens, which again is sort of out of order, right? Because the One Ring is the last thing that's created. Okay. Or you just, you have Sauron be killed in the fall of Numenor, and then just assume that sometime between then and Peter Jackson's movies, he came back and created the One Ring and picked up where he left off, right? So no, I think what they're going to do is you may see the fall of Numenor be season 4, possibly even season 3, depending on how much they're willing to skip over. And then you will see the show come to a conclusion with the War of the Last Alliance. Again, because it's the only reason why you have Elendil and Isildur in the show already. They're in season 1 already. So why would you have them there if you're not going to tell their story? It just doesn't make any sense. So, I mean, literally just common sense. And I'm not talking like Tolkien lore correct. Right? I'm just talking common sense from why would you put a character in a show if you're not going to tell their story, right? Just from that perspective, you can't not have the War of the Last Alliance in the Rings of Pewter. You have to have it. And I think Ben is just, trying to persuade people that somehow Rings of Pewter is going to do something new and creative when we all know that they just don't have it in them to do that. But anyway, that's just my thought. Let me know what you guys think. Where do you think they're going to end the show? Do you think they're going to go all the way up to the War of the Last Alliance like I do? Or do you think that maybe they'll just end it with the fall of Numenor? Or maybe something else? Maybe the show will end when Galadriel... she goes back to Valinor. Right? And she finds that Celeborn and Celebrian are there. Okay? No. She's going to wake up from a coma. She's going to wake up from having been in a coma because she drank too much from her seeing pool. Right, the one that she shows Frodo and Sam. Apparently she hits that sometimes late at night. So she drank too much of that, passed out, and then she wakes up and she's in bed, and Celeborn and Celebrian are there, and they're like, "Yo, Mom, you got to stop with these benders. You can't do that. You were talking about some like Howbland dude, and there were Hari Harefoots or whatever you called them, and she's gonna be like, oh my gosh, that must have been a dream, and and then we'll all be like, yeah, it was more like a nightmare, but thank you for that, Guy Ladriel. And then, and then Celeborn will be like, yeah, you were saying, you were mumbling about fighting orcs and stuff like that. And she'll be like, I've never picked up a sword in my life. Right? So that would be the way to end it if you ask me. But let me know where you guys think they're going to end the show down in the comment section below. Personally, my money's on the War of the Last Alliance. I just think common sense says you have to end it there. But that's just me. And again, with Rings of Pewter, you never know. They'll end it with, Durin the Fourth will get divorced from Disa, and him and Elrond will ride off happily ever after into the sunset. And he'll be getting the meat and getting it raw. I don't know. Your guess is as good as mine, but, we could speculate all day. Anyway, let me know what you think down in the comment section below. If you like the video, like the video. If you feel like sharing the video, by all means do so. It helps us with the YouTube algorithm, helps us get seen. If you have not subscribed yet, I would hope that you would consider subscribing. as we try to build this thing up. We're hoping to get to 1,000 subscribers by June 1st, and we're inching there. We're inching there, but need to get a little momentum going. So that would be great if you would consider turning that red subscribe button gray. If you're a returning subscriber, as always, thank you from the bottom of my heart for spending your time and checking out the videos. Let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. Remember, we've got merch. The link will be down below. We've got a Discord where we also have some chats and share artwork and talk about writing and fantasy, and not just Tolkien, but like other stuff like Dungeons and Dragons, Dragonlance, Elder Scrolls, that sort of stuff. So feel free to, follow the link and head on over there and join us in the conversations over there. And until the next time, as always, be good, be safe, be awesome, but more importantly, stay more dorkish. Peace.